Hi everyone, welcome back to the Good to Know channel. If you're like me and always hunting for simple ways to protect your health and feel more energized after 40, you've probably noticed how confusing food labels can get these days. Today we're diving into something the Food and Drug Administration in the USA quietly proved that's now showing up in so many foods you're probably eating daily, and it might surprise you. Stick around as we'll break it all down, including why it feels like there's a lot of it, where it's hiding, yes, even in supplements, and exactly how to avoid it. And if you're finding this helpful, hit that subscribe button. It really helps support the channel so that I can keep bringing you these straightforward, no-fluff wellness tips. First off, what exactly are we talking about? Well, back in 2016, Congress passed the National Bioengineered Food Disclosure Standard. It basically replaced the old GMO, genetically modified organism term, with bioengineered. The rollout happened quietly over several years with very little public announcement. Instead of clear GMO warnings, companies now use the word bioengineered, a special green USDA symbol, or sometimes just a QR code you have to scan. In the United States, this labeling is mandatory for foods or ingredients that contain detectable bioengineered genetic material. You'll see it on products with corn, soybeans, canola, sugar beets, and a few others from the official USDA list. Now here's where it gets really different depending upon where you live. In the USA, you'll spot these disclosures on qualifying packaged foods and even some supplements, text saying bioengineered food or contains a bioengineered food ingredient, plus that green symbol or QR code. In Canada, there's no mandatory labeling for bioengineered or genetically engineered foods at all. Health Canada and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency treat approved ones the same as regular foods. You might see voluntary non-GMO claims on some products, but you won't find required bioengineered labels like in the USA. That's why shopping in Canada can feel a bit different. The same brand might have the label south of the border, but not in Canada. What about the UK? Well, after Brexit, the UK follows the system closer to the older European Union rules. They require clear labeling if a food contains genetically modified ingredients above a certain threshold, and that's usually at 0.9%. It's more transparent than the USA bioengineered approach and doesn't hide behind QR codes. Many European countries still have stricter GMO disclosure overall. So why does bioengineering seem like a lot? Because even though a handful of crops are heavily bioengineered, they dominate huge portions of agriculture, especially in the USA. Over 90% of soybeans, corn, cotton, and canola acres are bioengineered varieties. These crops get turned into ingredients that show up everywhere in the modern food supply. They're mostly found in processed and packaged foods, things like corn syrup, soybean oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil, cornstarch, sugar from beets, and additives in breads, cereals, snacks, chips, sodas, condiments, frozen meals, and baked goods. Even animal products can indirectly involve them if the animals ate bioengineered feed, which many do. And yes, they're in your supplements too. Many conventional supplements use ingredients derived from these crops, like certain oils or additives, and may carry the bioengineered disclosure in the USA. The big five crops, corn, soy, canola, sugar beet, and cotton, make up the majority of what ends up in these ultra-processed items. That's why it can feel overwhelming. They're not usually sold as whole fresh produce, except a few specialty items like certain potatoes or apples, but their derivatives are hidden in almost everything convenient. So why are these crops modified in the first place? The main reasons were to make large-scale farming easier and more productive. Most bioengineered crops, especially soy, corn, canola, and sugar beets, were designed to survive heavy spraying with herbicides like glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, or to produce their own built-in insecticide. This lets farmers spray entire fields to kill weeds without harming the crop, saving them time and labor in the short term. But here's the unfortunate reality for many farmers today. Once they start using these patented seeds, they're often locked into that system. The seeds come with strict contracts from the big seed and chemical companies. They have to buy new seeds every single year because they're not allowed to save and replant them like farmers traditionally did for generations. On top of that, the heavy use of glyphosate has created resistant superweeds that are incredibly tough to control, pushing farmers to spray even more or to switch to other chemicals just to stay in business. Switching away from the genetically modified system can mean higher labor costs, different equipment, or short-term risks to yield, especially for bigger operations running on tight margins. Though the government isn't holding a gun to their heads and forcing them to spray, the whole economic setup, patented seeds, technology agreements, and the way the supply chain works strongly pushes them, well, in my opinion, almost forces them toward this model to stay in business and survive. And unfortunately, over time, it creates a kind of dependency cycle that many call a toxic treadmill. That's exactly why so many health-conscious people, including viewers like you and me, choose to support organic or non-GMO project-verified products whenever possible. It helps back farming systems that avoid both the genetic engineering and the heavy reliance on these chemicals. Now you might be wondering, what is actually the harm in bioengineered foods and why should we consider avoiding them? Well, the mainstream scientific consensus from organizations like the WHO, FDA, European Food Safety Authority, and National Academies of Sciences is that the approved bioengineered foods themselves are as safe and nutritious as conventional ones, and our bodies can digest and process the proteins and DNA from them just like any other food. They state that large reviews have not found strong evidence linking the genetic modification directly to widespread digestive issues or chronic conditions in the general population. That's what we're being told. However, that said, a major reason many people choose to avoid them as a precautionary measure is the way a huge portion of these crops, being soy, corn, canola, and sugar beets, are engineered to tolerate heavy spraying with herbicides like glyphosate, that active ingredient in Roundup. This farming practice often leads to higher residues ending up in our food supply. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, who's part of WHO, classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans. Probably? And some lab and animal studies suggest it can disrupt the gut microbiome by affecting pathways that beneficial bacteria use. And I'm not even going to discuss the possibilities of what the genetically modified patented seeds consist of. So, while human evidence is still debated and not conclusive for the average person, digestive problems are incredibly common these days. Bottom line, many of us simply notice we feel better with fewer ultra-processed foods and lower potential chemical exposures. As for why the name was changed from the more familiar GMO to bioengineered, the official reason from the USDA is that Congress wanted a single consistent national standard to replace the patchwork of state laws that were popping up. They chose bioengineered to be a precise legal term focused on detectable modified DNA, aiming to reduce confusion and make compliance easier for industry. Critics, including myself, however, argue that that new term is less recognizable to everyday shoppers and that the law includes exemptions, like highly refined ingredients with no detectable DNA, which some see as making disclosure less transparent. Whether you view it as standardization or softening the message is why many health-conscious folks still look for non-GMO project-verified organic labels instead. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, it's a personal choice based on how your body responds and the level of caution that feels right for you and your family. Now, the good news. Avoiding them doesn't have to be complicated. Here are simple steps that work whether you're in Canada or in the USA. Choose organic. Organic standards prohibit bioengineering in both countries. In Canada, the Canada Organic Regime, regulated by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, requires certification to the Canadian organic standards for any product making any organic claim when sold across provinces or imported. This includes on-site inspections and verification by Canadian Food Inspection Agency accredited certification bodies, so the organic label is meaningful and enforced. Look for non-GMO project-verified labels. This goes beyond mandatory rules. Stick to whole, single-ingredient foods like fresh fruits, vegetables, meats, eggs, and grains that aren't heavily processed. For oils, choose avocado, olive, or coconut instead of soybean, canola, or cottonseed when possible. In the USA, actively watch for the bioengineered text or symbol. In Canada, rely on organic or verified non-GMO since mandatory disclosure isn't required. Read ingredient lists carefully and buy from local farmers or trusted brands when you can. When shopping for supplements, here's what I recommend looking for if you want to avoid bioengineered ingredients. First, in the USA, check the label for any bioengineered food text, the green USDA symbol, or a QR code. This means it contains detectable modified genetic material, often from soy, corn, or canola. In Canada, since there's no mandatory labeling, your best protection is to look for the organic label, USDA Organic or Canada Organic, or the non-GMO Project Verified seal. These certifications actually prohibit bioengineered ingredients and are properly enforced. Also scan the ingredient list and steer clear of soy, canola oil, corn-derived additives like maltodextrin, cottonseed oils, or vague vegetable oils. Instead, choose supplements that use sunflower, avocado oil, olive oil, or clearly state they're from non-GMO sources. Prioritizing organic or non-GMO project verified options is one of the simplest ways to lower your exposure while supporting cleaner farming practices. Small, consistent choices like these add up to feeling clearer, more energetic, and more in control of what fuels your body, especially as we get a bit older. There you have it, friends. The FDA quietly approved this labeling shift, and now it's part of daily eating for many of us, or soon will be. But with a little awareness, we can navigate it and prioritize foods that truly support our brain, heart, and energy. Have you spotted the bioengineered label on something you buy regularly? Or do you have a favorite way to avoid these ingredients? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one. If this video helped you, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more easy science fact tips, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.